Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. So glad that you are here with us in the room, and welcome to those of you that have allowed us to come into your homes this morning. Thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate it greatly. Is there anyone here in the room that is here for the very first time? If you are, please stand. We would like to give a gift to you. Please stand. Now, I know I met a number of people. Maybe they're still on their way in.
Maybe you scared them.
Perhaps,
Today's reading is from Ernest Holmes. The one who has learned to love all people will find plenty of people who will return that love. Excuse me. This is not mere sentiment and is more than a religious attitude of mind. It is a deep scientific fact and one to which we should pay attention. The reason is this: as all is mind, as we attract to us what we first become, until we learn to love, we are not sending out love vibrations. And not until we send out those vibrations can we receive love in return. One of the first things to do is to love everybody. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. There is always more good than bad in people, and seeing the good tends to bring it forth. Love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being, and that explains why it is that people should have something or someone to love. The life that has not loved has not lived. It is still dead. Love is the sole impulse for creation, and the man who does not have love as the greatest incentive in his life has never developed the real creative instinct. No one can swing out into the universal without love, for the whole universe is based upon it. So without further ado, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce Reverend Christy Snow.
Thank you. Where do you people come from?
Yeah. The map is not the territory. I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you're somebody you don't even know, but I'm going to describe her so you can be her for just a moment. Reverend Renee LaBoa. Around 2002, 2003, she was already starting to have her own personal summer, ladies. You know what I'm talking about. We're on a road trip. We're going cross country. Now, even guys, I want you to pretend that you are Reverend Renee LaBoa, then not a reverend, just a Renee LaBoa. Singer, traveling with me, full-time, touring. Imagine that you are her, and you're told, we'll just get the AC fixed in the van when we get to California. It's just take us a couple days to get across, and then we got lots of time. We're in a hurry. We don't have time to go to the shop right now. We'll get the AC fixed when we get there. Imagine it's July. Imagine that you are going across the country in a little metal box in July with no air conditioning. Imagine Max, my little companion, four-legged version, with a little do-rag that I would continually put in the ice chest and then wrap around her head because I didn't want her to have a heat stroke. Imagine these conditions when I come to you and turn to you in the car after you've had 2 days of grueling heat, and I say, the Grand Canyon's just right up the road. We should take a detour and go to the Grand Canyon. What do you think you would say as Reverend Renee LaBoa? Are you kidding me? No detours. Get me to California. Get me to some air conditioning. She wasn't paying attention. I took a right. And she's not even, seriously, she would not pay attention, and not even when she was driving, but that's another story. And I said, the whole way I'm going to the Grand Canyon. She's not aware of that yet, and she's just like over in her own little world. And I said, so why would you not want to see the Grand Canyon? I know you're hot. I get it. You don't get it. Don't even pretend you get it. Whatever. But it's the Grand Canyon. Why would you not want to go see the Grand? We're this close. Why wouldn't you want to go see the Grand Canyon? She goes, it is just a hole in the ground. Why do I want to go see a hole in the ground when I could get to air conditioning? So, a little while later, I enlighten her Grand Canyon, just around the corner. She was like, oh, I'm going to kill you. We turn, raise your hand if you've been to the Grand Canyon. Oh, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The rest of you, it's not a hole in the ground. We turn, and there is this majestic vista, like pictures can't do it justice. Movies can't even do it justice. You have to be there to experience it. I've never seen someone projectile cry, but she did. It was like, and it just bless her, ugly cry. It just, It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Now, we were not ministers at the time, but we were still doing our very best to live a spirit-led, spirit-filled life. And we looked at everything that we went through and dissected it, if you will. And so after that experience, after she had the most amazing experience, and I knew she would, whatever, I said, why really do you think you didn't want to see the Grand Canyon? Now, this is a woman that used to live in Yosemite, okay? She lived inside Yosemite, so she loves that kind of thing. And I said, why would you think that you wouldn't want to take the opportunity? And she said, wait for it, I didn't want to be disappointed. I've heard so much about it my whole life. I've always wanted to go, but I was afraid it wouldn't be everything I wanted it to be. I was afraid I'd be disappointed. We have this tendency to stay at the plateau of status quo because we don't want to be disappointed, whether we admit it or not. We are ever evolving, changing beings, and yet we're terrified of evolving and changing. It's hysterical, really, you know? If you're like an alien looking down on this planet, you're like, check them out. They're like, in their DNA is this natural propensity to continue to grow and change, and yet they're freaking out over it. So my talk today, kinship with all life. We are in kinship with all life. Definition, sharing of characteristics or origins. Characteristics or origins. So the little acorn is not freaking out about becoming an oak tree. Think about what is inside of you that's still yet to be. So much. So much. So I invite you not to be discounting your kinship with all life, your ability, because we come from, everything and everyone is born out of the same God stuff. The same God stuff, which means we are forever evolving. We have this creative ability within us that is magnificent. We are love itself expressing as love. How cool is that? Now, I'm reading the bubble over a few heads right now that says, well, not everybody's expressing as love. Hey, how you doing? But most people think they are. But a lot of people do express from fear. It's either one or the other. But at our very core, at our very nature, we are made from that God stuff. That is love. And so this morning I want to talk about how do we live consciously from that place of being in kinship with all life. I'm so glad you asked. Well, you pray. In the Science of Mind tradition, we call that spiritual mind treatment. It's affirmative prayer. Has 5 steps, in some cases 7. I'm going to give you the 5 right now. If you want more, you can take a class. So, recognizing that Reverend Dusty will hook you up with a class. Number 1, recognition. God is all there is. God is all there is. Even growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, I heard about the omnipresence of God. I just kind of heard some other things too, but that's another story. It's all good. So recognizing that God is all there is. God is everywhere present, in and as and through all things. Well, if that's true, then number 2 is easy. I'm one with it. I'm one with this one. It is in me, around me, as me. Oh, one with the one. I and the Father are one. Except we don't give God pronouns because God is bigger than a pronoun. So, step 3, coming from that place of recognizing all is God and it's moving through me as me. I'm never separate from my source. It is easy for me to understand that it is God's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. And so I claim in step 3, whatever it is, the desire of my heart, whether it's to manifest my right and perfect job, my right and perfect partner, or to be able to have loving communication with someone I'm in absolute discord with. So you move into that place in the present moment, in the present tense, owning it as if it were already so. That's step 3. And then, as Master Teacher Jesus taught, he always said thank you first. Did you know that? Step 4, in gratitude, not because it's nice, not because it's the proper thing to do. You're in the South, you got to be proper. No, that's not why. Number 4 is because we're so convinced that it is done, we're giving thanks in advance. Convinced that it is so. That's what we do. I had my first teacher said, "Who can tell me what treatment is?" And all these practitioners raised their hands, and then this 12-year-old boy raised his hand, and he said, "Isn't it how we remind ourselves of the truth?" Mm-hmm. So number 4, we're so convinced that we say thank you in advance. And number 5, as they say in the 12-step program, we take our hands off the wheel and we let go and we let God, right? We release and allow it to be so. So yes, I mean treatment when I say the way to live in kinship with all life is treatment. Expands our consciousness. It aligns us with truth. It just makes us feel like, I remember. But I'm also talking about an acronym I have for prayer. So the way to live in kinship with all life is P-R-A-Y. Prepare, rest, align, and yield. Prepare. This is, I believe, one of the most powerful things about the Science of Mind teaching, one of the most powerful things in our ability as human beings on this planet, no matter what religion or philosophy you come from, one of our most precious gifts that is most often overlooked, and that is imagination. Prepare. When I say prepare, I mean see it, feel it, know it is already so. See it, feel it, know it is already so. Prepare. Act as if. Come from that place. Everything's created twice, even the chair you're sitting on. It was a thought in someone's mind, and then it became a reality. So those thoughts, our body doesn't know the difference between an imagined experience and a real one. So imagine yourself into the place you want to be in. Fun story, since I got Reverend Renee LeBeau on the brain this morning. By the way, I was co-pastor in Charlotte at the Spiritual Living Center for 10 years and stepped down about 1.5 years ago to travel and speak at other places and do my thing. And now she's senior pastor there, but the same Reverend Renee from the story. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, it used to be called the Center for Positive Living, and I was the music director there in 1999, and then Reverend Renee came as a practitioner in 2001 from California. And then around 2005, we had been traveling around, or 2004 actually, we'd been traveling around, seeing the Grand Canyon and whatnot, speaking and singing at churches, leading workshops, doing things all over the country for a couple of years. We were at a different church every single Sunday. And then one October we were at, my father had passed away, and so I had cleared my calendar. And a few months later it was October, and I felt like maybe I could don the door of anything other than my house, because I was just, I had to process my grief. And our church that we were still members of, they asked us to come and pretend it was our church, they said. Now Renee was a practitioner, I was not. I'd had a few classes, but I was not a practitioner. Come pretend it's your church, give the talks, do the music, lead workshops, classes. We don't care. We're just tired of having to have someone every week because we're without a minister right now, as you know. So we did. And at the end of that 5 weeks, that last Sunday morning, we're having coffee, and we said, this is crazy. I think, no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. What were you going to say? At the same time, we blurted out, we're supposed to be the co-pastors of this church. Now, you may not understand the way the organizations work, but let me just tell you, that would be the equivalent of someone who loves working with kids and being really good at it, going into a superintendent of schools and saying, hey, I want a job. No, I don't have a teaching degree. No. And him saying, sure, why not? Not usually going to happen, right? So, but we felt so strong. It was crazy. The outside world, we knew people were going to laugh at us. People were going to think, who do they think they are? All of that happened. People laughed. People got incensed. Like, who do they think they are? And yet we were so convinced that it was a spirit urge, not an ego urge, but a spirit urge, that we put in our application, if you will. We submitted our proposal for ministry. And then we thought, okay, this goes back to that prepare, because not just imagination, there's also treat and move your feet. There's action steps. So if we thought it was at least possible, and it must be possible because it's an idea that we had, and inherent within every desire is the mechanics for its fulfillment, so that say the Upanishads, so I'll go with that. If it was at least possible, what is something that I would do right now to work toward it? Well, that logo's got to go. And those programs, have you seen those programs are horrible. We got to fix that. And then we decided, well, even if we're not hired, we love this church, and the logo's horrible, and so is the program, so we got to fix that. So we did. And we just kept it to ourselves on our computer. And then we're like, what else would we do? Well, the website goes, whew, Lord have mercy, that needs some dusting off. No, it just needs demolishing. It needs like starting over. So we're not IT people, but we found a little cookie cutter thing where we could make our own website. We made a new website for the church. Just didn't hit publish yet. It was out there in cyberspace. So we kept doing all these things. And then we took it a step further. We bought office mugs. These were our office mugs for us to drink our coffee in our office as we were co-pastors of the Spiritual Living Center of Charlotte, then the Center for Positive Living. And we would sit every morning and we would have coffee out of our coffee mugs. We'd close our eyes and we would pretend we were in the office, which by the way, we're going to redo that too because woof. So we redid the office in our mind, decided what would go where. We would close our eyes every morning, drink our coffee, pretending I was sitting in my seat, she was sitting at hers because we shared an office. We're cool with that. And the admin person needed the other office, so got our eyes closed. We're there. We lived it. We were so convinced. We lived it. We lived it. And then the strangest thing happened. They hired us. They hired us. They had ordained ministers asking for this job, and they hired us. Of course, Religious Science International at the time almost lost some hair over it. I'm sure they did, actually. But they figured out a way. They figured out a way to work with us and had our mentor looking over our shoulder, making sure we were doing our on-the-job training correctly, and he was our minister of record, blah, blah, blah. Our first day of work, we hit the button. The new website went live. First Sunday, we showed up less than a week later. We had new programs and a new logo and a new website because we were already being it. We decided we were going to minister is to serve. We knew we were supposed to serve this community. So we knew we were ministers of this community. So prepare means to be in it already. To be in it. Whatever it is, be in it already. Next. Wait, before I move on from that. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe you're having a little spotty time in your relationship. Are you focusing on the argument that you just had? Whether it's your spouse or your mother, whomever. Or are you focusing on the love that you know that they are and the love that you know that you are? And moving into a place of seeing that as the reality. So next we got rest. This one's important. I know you're thinking, why are we talking about rest in church? This is weird. Because it's important. How are we supposed to live this teaching if we are haggard and worn out and not taking care of ourselves, not living life? And yet we're saying we're here to live life fully, but yet you're not getting enough rest, you're not eating the right things for your body to support your body system. I read this article recently that talked about, really brought it home for me. It talked about how if you only get 5 hours of sleep, or actually less than 7 to 9, there are some exceptions, and probably in this room going, I can do it. But for most people, if you don't get 7 to 9 hours sleep, your body doesn't get to that stage where it is able to release toxins from your system. So it runs around raising your blood pressure, raising your blood sugar, wreaking havoc on your body. And yet you're trying to be out here in the world being calm and peaceful and poised and living from a place of love. Ever heard that saying, if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, don't make any major decisions? Well, the same thing is true with trying to apply and live this teaching. Dr. Ernest Holmes said there's too much theory and not enough practice. Well, for us to be able to practice it, to live it, it takes taking care of our physical body. So rest, being in a place of silence, being in a place of stillness, and stop looking at your phone as you're trying to go to bed. This study also said, and man, that was my thing. I'd sit there and I'd lay there and look at Facebook. And most of the time, my friends are all fun and enlightened and stuff. So it always made me happy, made me smile. Lately, with some politics, it's been making my stress go up. But this article said, when you're looking, whether it's stressful or happy and enlightening, when you're looking at a screen, you got a screen looking back at you, it sends a message to your brain that says, not time to sleep yet. Not time to sleep yet. Then you put the phone down and you lay there and you wonder why. You go, well, I'm awake, I might as well look at Facebook some more. And then it sends another message, not time to sleep yet. So if you're having trouble sleeping or you're not feeling like you're getting deep, restful sleep, try giving yourself an hour to get ready for bed. To get ready. I've never talked about this in a Sunday morning talk, but it's important. I'm realizing it for myself. It is very important. I used to wear it like a badge of honor. I had 4 hours sleep. Did 2 services, a workshop, and a concert. That's right. No, not a badge of honor. Not a great thing to be bragging about. Take care of your body temple. So next we got align. Align. In treatment, that's what we do. Dr. Ernest Holmes says you don't get what you are, what you want, you get what you are. I remember the first time I heard that was one of my first Science of Mind classes, and I thought I'd found my get-rich-quick plan. I was so excited. I'm going to have everything I want. Just take this class. And then I read that. It said, this teaching does not tell you you can have whatever you want. I'm like, I want my money back. That's a misrepresentation. And he goes on to say, it tells you you can have what you are. You have what you are. Whatever you're aligning with, that's what you get. That's what you attract to you. So A is for alignment. And in treatment, we do that. But also, in our actions, we get an opportunity to do that. We get an opportunity to be congruent, have our actions be congruent with our desires, with what we say we are. Because it's not enough to just align in treatment and say there's one power and one presence that's moving through me as me, and so in this moment I claim that I am a presence of love and light in this world. Thank you, God, for this truth, and so it is. And I walk out the door, and someone comes up to me and has a different idea about religion or politics or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm telling them why they're wrong. And I'm coming from a judgmental place, because guess what? Judgment is judgment. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on giving it. And like attracts like. Now that's difficult sometimes when you have something you're so sure you're right about. I understand. I really do. But it doesn't change the fact that we are here to be a presence of light and love. Doesn't mean we can't speak up and say when there's injustice in the world, because that's very important. That's very important. But we do it from a place of love. We do it from a place of love. Love, love. Being in alignment with truth. Because we do get what we are. So that takes us to yielding. We got prepare, rest, align, yield. Surrender. I surrender to the power and presence within me that knows how. Thank God. Because I don't know how. I don't know. I don't have a clue most of the time how to get from where I am to where I want to be in life in different things. I mean, I'm a pretty smart person, and I have a business degree and all that, but and I kind of know how to write a song, but getting from point A to point B, a lot of times it's bigger, especially if you're really daring to dream and daring to live large. It's bigger because you're not accepting the status quo anymore. You're moving beyond what you've known into something new. And so then it's time to surrender. Or maybe it's just hard. Maybe it's hard because there's emotions involved. It's hard because there's something's being brought up for you that feels painful. Whatever the reason. If you can't figure out how to get there, it's okay. That's your reminder. That's your red flag of, oh, by the way, I remember. That's not my job. I don't have to remember how. That's Spirit's job. My job is to set my course. To look at the target as an archer would and pull back the arrow and trust that it's going to find its mark. Sometimes in life, it feels really hard because we're in the pull back place. Feels like we're going backwards sometimes when you look at the news, especially in North Carolina. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Sunday morning's not the time, but sometimes it feels like we're going backwards. Just trust that that's the arrow that's got its mark and it's been released and it's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine because we are here to live and grow, and even the things that feel like contrast, that feel gross, that feel yucky, that feel hard, that feel hurtful, it's part of the process. You know, in the Buddhist tradition, they put vegetables in a pot with water and they do this to cleanse them. They cleanse them by bumping up against each other. That's all we're doing. Rumi said, how will the mirror of your heart ever be polished if you're irritated by every rub? So just remember, as that arrow's pulled back, there's some rubbing going on, and it's the wrong way. Sometimes we feel like we're being rubbed the wrong way. Let it go and trust. That's when we yield to Spirit. We trust, we surrender, and know that this too is good, this too is God. There's a blessing in this, and I demand to see it now. Emma Curtis Hopkins. I demand to see it now because I choose to see it now. I surrender into this place of knowing that all is good and all is God. So kinship with all life really comes down to forgiveness and loving kindness. Forgiveness really, though, it's a bigger definition than I used to think of, definition of forgiveness. Because really all there is to forgive is, as it says in the Course in Miracles, I forgive myself for seeing you as anything less than a child of God. I forgive myself for seeing the situation as anything less than the perfection of life unfolding. I forgive myself. I was on the phone one time with a friend. We'd had a major falling out. I heard things out of her mouth I'd never heard out of her mouth, and they were aimed at me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I went into that place of, as I was hung up on, I went into that place of, I can't believe, how dare she? I can't believe she would speak to me that way. And then I heard my own words that I just said. And I said, wait a second. This is not the truth. This is not the truth with a capital T. I forgive myself for seeing her as anything less than a loving, precious child of God. Ring. She called right back. I said it twice, and she called back. And she said, I'm so sorry. That's not who I am. And that's not how I want this to be. We'll get through this. It works, y'all. It works because life is created from the inside out. So as we live in that place of forgiveness and loving kindness, we're releasing the idea of other. We're releasing the idea of separation. That's the biggest point of suffering in this life, is a belief that we're separate from Source. So as we abandon this idea of separation, we are able to be in a place of loving kindness and forgiveness. And now sometimes I know it's not that easy. I've had a challenging month personally, dealing with a lot of, I'm just a happy person. I'm just happy, all the time happy. And I've had some unhappy people in right here in my clear zone, in the personal space. Unhappy at me, because I believe differently than they do. And all of a sudden, that's really coming to the surface. It's not hidden anymore. It's right there for everybody to see. So, unhappiness. And it's been hard for me. I'm just being honest. I'm being real right now. It's been a challenge for me to remember what I know. But the one thing that always, never fails me, is treatment, meditation, and for me, chanting. I do that chanting practice. And it creates a vibrational feeling of oneness that you can't escape. It's no longer your head trying to tell you you're one with all that is. You're feeling a vibrational shift when you do the chanting work and then move into meditation and treatment. That has never left me nor forsaken me. And it brings me back to knowing, as the Dalai Lama says, be kind when possible. And it's always possible. We are living in kinship with all of life. When we remember to trust that all of life is a movement toward our wholeness, to trust that when we have a divine idea in the mind of God, that it is a divine idea. Just the mere fact that you had this idea means it's a divine spark of inspiration moving through you, just like this center. I've been part of this center since the first day it started, practically. Reverend Ray Matheny was a dear friend of mine. As some of y'all may know, she'd stand up here and say, all right, Joel, she's from New York, your Southern minister's about to start. But the first day I met her, we were at a Silomar. And I was walking by, she reached her hand out, and I just reached my hand out. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And we're just walking past each other, and she smacks my hand like this. And she kept walking, and she's like, see ya, give me a little kiss, let me a little kiss. And I looked down at my hand, and there was a rock, and it had trust engraved in it. I still have that rock. It's in that book bag right inside that wall right there. I carry it with me everywhere. I've had it for many, many years. She trusted when she created this center that even after she was gone from this physical plane, that like minds would continue to come together, continue to be in community. That gives me chills all over my body. How cool is that? That's pulling back an arrow and trusting that it's going to land where it needs to land. Because we are in kinship with all life, which means we are in kinship with all of creation. We have an amazing, amazing gift in this life. We are one. We are this creative spark. And so I want you to take all of this inside. I want you to just feel it, be with it, go within for just a moment, allowing these words, these thoughts, these stories, whether it was through humor or through a spark of deep, heartfelt emotion about a loved one, whatever came up for you, trust it, that it is God moving through you. Maybe it was an urge to be more in your life, More of a presence for love, more vocal about what you stand for, more in a place of authority in your life, maybe a new job, I don't know. But I know that there's one power and one presence. It is God the good. It is intelligence itself, and it is moving in as and through everyone in this room. In fact, in as and through all that we see, all that we know, and more. And so I speak this word for myself and for everyone here today at the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, and everyone that we touch as we leave this room. I speak this word knowing for each of us that whatever was laid upon our heart today, whatever is pulling us forward with Spirit's pull, I trust for each of us that we say yes to life, yes to living in kinship with life, which means trusting our creative ability, trusting our intuition, which is Spirit moving through us, trusting that all of life is a movement toward wholeness, and trusting that our job is simply to be, love, be open, and to flow with life. And so I thank you, God, in this moment. I say thank you, Spirit. As I know that this is the truth, this is the reality that we choose, that we are aligned with, that we live, and I say thank you. I release these words. I release this service. I release all the details of my life into the hands and the heart and the mind of God. It is done, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you.